and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our online candidate information briefing. My name is Donna Raori, Deputy Electoral Officer for Thames Coromandel District Council. Before we commence, I'll do a karakia. Tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, haimie, huie, tae kie. Before we begin, just a note that this session will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube channel. Today's agenda, we will have presentations on the electoral process presented by our Electoral Officer Dale Osofsky and Thames Coromandel District Council elections presented by our CEO Aileen Lowry. With the help of our elections team lead, Jenna Litchfield, we will be assisting you tonight. There will be opportunity to answer questions after each presentation, so please pop your questions in the Q&A function, which is at the top of your screen. To start us off, we welcome our first presenter, Dale Osofsky. Thank you, Dale.
Kia ora tātou. As introduced, my name is Dale Osofsky. I'm the Electoral Officer for Thames Coromandel District Council and also the Electoral Officer for a number of other local authorities throughout New Zealand, including Auckland Council. I've been running elections now for quite some time, and this will be my 14th triennial election, so a wee bit of experience there. So without further ado, I'll move on to my presentation. So onto the agenda. What I'd like to cover off this evening is how do I become a candidate? What do I need to know about campaigning? And how does the voting work? Thank you. So just by way of background, some terms that I'll be referring to in the presentation. TCDC, obviously Thames Coromandel District Council. WRC is the Waikato Regional Council. An elector is a person who is eligible to vote and who has enrolled on the electoral roll. The electoral roll is a list of electors who are either on the Māori or the general roll. And the Māori electoral roll is a list of electors who are enrolled on the Māori roll, and similarly, the general electoral roll is a list of electors who are enrolled on the general roll. Thank you. So what are some of the key dates or milestones? So the first one is nominations open, and that was on the 4th of July. So we're well over halfway through the nomination period because they then will close at 12 noon on the 1st of August. That's next Friday when nominations will close. The next milestone after that is when voting will commence, and that opens on the 9th of September. That is a little earlier than in previous elections. We had legislative change made last year, which lengthened the voting period from 3 weeks to 4.5 weeks. So candidates need to be aware that there is a longer voting period. So it opens on the 9th of September and will close at 12 noon on Saturday, the 11th of October. Mid-afternoon on that day, we will have progress results. And then the following day, on the Sunday, the 12th of October, we'll have the preliminary results. Then on the following Friday, the 17th, or by Friday the 17th, we will have the final results or a declaration of results announced. Thank you. So Thames Coromandel District Council has a population of around 32,500 people and about 26,000 electors. Of those 26,000 electors, there are 23,000 on the general roll and about 1,750 on the Māori roll. Which totals about 25,000 resident electors. But in addition to that, we have 1,157 non-resident ratepayer electors. So this is basically people that pay rates in the district but live outside of the district. For example, they may live in Hamilton and have a batch in Thames Coromandel, so they can enrol to be on the ratepayer roll. So there's a URL there if you're wanting to check whether you are eligible to be a non-resident ratepayer elector, www.ratepayer.co.nz. So both those roles, resident and ratepayer roles, will close on the 1st of August. We'll be using the first past the post electoral system. and the candidates will be listed on the voting document in alphabetical order. Thank you. Waikato Regional Council, so we're also required under legislation to hold their elections in the Thames district. That their elections will also be on the first past the post electoral system, but their candidates will be listed in random order, so it will be different. So in Thames Coromandel District Council, they will be in alphabetical order, and for the Regional Council, they will be in random order, where every voting document has a different order for that particular election. Thank you. So what have we got elections for? We've got elections for the mayor, 10 councillors, 20 community board members. We've got the Māori ward poll, which I'll talk a little bit more on shortly, and the one regional councillor. There will be no Māori constituency poll for the region, and I'll explain why shortly. So Thames Coromandel District Council, 9 general ward councillors. There they are elected there from the 4 general wards, electing between 1 to 3. And then we have the Māori ward councillor, which is one Māori ward councillor elected from the whole district. Thank you. We've also got elections for the community board members. So we have 5 community boards there, each electing 4. There's a map of the boundaries there. And as I said earlier, there's the Waikato Regional Council, and electors will either elect one member from the general constituency or one from the Māori constituency. Next. As mentioned earlier, there will be a Māori ward poll. So basically, any council that established Māori wards or constituencies for regional councils since 2020 without holding a poll, legislation now requires that a poll be held with the 2025 elections. So this is what we are required to do for Thames Coromandel District Council. We've tried to keep the wording quite simple, and you can see there on the right there, electors can tick one of those 2 circles. I vote to keep Māori wards, I vote to remove Māori wards. So nice and simple and easy to understand. The outcome of the poll will be binding. So whatever is decided in 2025 will apply for the 2028 and 2031 triennial elections. And that basically means that the matter cannot be revisited again or debated again until 2032. Regardless of the outcome of the poll, the Māori ward will be in place for the 2025 to 2028 triennium term. So as I said, the Māori, there is no poll required for the Waikato Regional Council because they implemented their Māori constituencies way back in 2013 prior to that 2020 date I mentioned earlier. Next. Electoral system, both councils will be using first past the post electoral system. Quite simple to use. There's an example there. You vote by ticking the candidate names. Candidates with the highest number of votes wins, but please don't vote for more candidates than the number of positions. So on that example there, there's only 1 candidate. You only put 1 tick. If you put 2 ticks, it makes that invalid. So we want to make as many votes valid as possible. So just reminded to read the instructions clearly. Thank you. Next. Onto candidate eligibility. So to be a candidate, you must first of all be a New Zealand citizen. Secondly, you must be aged 18 or over. And thirdly, enrolled on the parliamentary roll anywhere in New Zealand. So you do not need to be on the parliamentary roll in Thames Coromandel. You can be anywhere in New Zealand, but you must be nominated by 2 people from the area that you're standing in. So by way of an example, if you're standing for the Thames General Ward, your nomination must be signed by 2 people enrolled on the general roll for the Thames Ward area. And similarly, if you're standing for the Māori Ward, your nomination must be signed by 2 people enrolled on the Māori roll for the Māori Ward area. Next. You can stand for multiple positions. So you can stand for the mayor, for the council, for the community board. Nothing wrong with that. You can stand for all 3 of those if you wish to. If you're fortunate enough to be elected to more than one, then the candidate takes the higher position. So if you stand for council and community board and you get elected to both, you take the council position, you forfeit the community board position, and the next highest polling candidate takes that position. You can't stand for more than one ward for the district, and you cannot stand for the district and the region. So you have to choose which of those organisations you want to stand for. Elected members or their spouses cannot have contracts with council over $25,000 in one financial year without approval. So there is a process. If you do fall in that category, there is a process that you have to go through in conjunction with the Office of Auditor General. If a council employee is elected to the mayor or council, they must resign their employment position because there is a conflict of interest. Interestingly enough, an employee can be elected to a community board and not resign their employment position. So you can actually be an employee and an elected member to a community board. And finally, you cannot nominate yourself. So you must be nominated by two eligible electors from the area that you're standing in. Next. So the nomination process, first of all, obtain a copy of the candidate information book. There's a diagram of one. You can download a PDF from the council's website. You can ask for a hard copy. More than happy to post one out if you need one. Pretty much contains everything you need to know about being a candidate, from the criteria to the election signs rules to campaigning guidelines to offences to how much you get paid. All that sort of thing is in the handbook. Next. Okay, so nominations have opened on Friday the 4th of July. 3 ways to submit your nomination. The first one is probably the easiest way, is you go online. There's a URL there. It's really simple and easy to use, and I'll discuss it in the next slide, but that's the first way of doing it online. The second one is you can download an editable PDF from the council's website at that address there, or you can complete a hard copy form and available from the council offices and drop it off in person. And we've got council locations in the handbook and on the council website. Next. So just on that online nominations portal, it's really easy and simple to use. There's no printing, there's no handwriting or scanning. Makes our job a lot easier because we're not trying to interpret people's handwriting, which can be difficult. So it's all done electronically. You can enter your statement, your 150-word statement electronically. You can upload your photograph electronically. And I think the beauty of the system is that it can instantly confirm your nominators as eligible. So it is linked back to the electoral roll. So once you put your nominators in, it will automatically behind the scenes check that they are eligible. And if they're not eligible, you cannot proceed any further, and it'll ask you to submit another nominator. So it's a really good check right at the beginning of the process. Thank you. So each nomination, that requires a $200 deposit, and that's for each position you're standing for. So if you're standing for mayor and council, that will be a $400 deposit. Most of those deposits candidates do get back. It is a deposit. So if you poll greater than 25% of the lowest successful candidate, you will get your deposit back. There is an ability to submit a 150-word candidate profile statement. We strongly recommend that all candidates do this, and you could have 150 words in English, and you can also have 150 words in Te Reo Māori, as long as that's largely consistent in content. You can also have other languages if you wish to, but they must total 150 words by law. You can attach a passport-sized colour photograph. We also recommend that you do attach that, but I do stress that it should be a recent photograph taken within the last 12 months. Evidence of New Zealand citizenship. This is really a safeguard for you. We do ask that you submit a copy of your passport or your birth certificate or citizenship certificate, and that's really to make sure that you comply with the legal requirement of being a citizen. Candidates can also declare an affiliation, which can be from a group or an organisation. So if you belong to a particular group in the community, that's fine, you can have that, but you must provide a letter of authority for you to use that affiliation. If you're not a member of a group or organisation, you can simply use the word independent, which conveys to the electors that you are independent. And a lot of candidates just simply don't have anything. They don't belong to an organisation. They don't want to be known as an independent, so they just leave that blank. There are some unacceptable affiliations that I won't accept. I won't accept a slogan, an affiliation that's indecent or slanderous. Next. Right. Also on your nomination, you're required to include a statement on a principal place of residence. Do you live in or out of the area that you're standing in? That is the legal requirement. And that goes on the candidate profile statement alongside your name. And it just provides additional information to the electors that you're in or out of the area. And any other positions you're standing for must be listed as well. So if you are standing for the council and the community board, then you've got a list that you're standing for both, so that the electors know that you are what you're actually standing for is both and not just one position. So nominations, they will close at 12 noon on the 1st of August. That's next Friday. Please don't leave lodging your nomination to the last minute. If there is a problem with your nomination paper, you need time to fix it. And if you come in at 5 to 12 next Friday and there is an issue with it, you have 5 minutes to get it fixed. So it's not ideal. So we really want you to go away confident that your nomination has been lodged and accepted. So just allow enough time to do that. Next. So this is an example of what your profile could look like. This candidate is standing for mayor. They have supplied an affiliation, which you don't need to. Their principal place of residence is in the area they're standing for. They don't need to as well, as I said. They have supplied a photograph and they have supplied a statement. So that's the ideal, what it should look like. And if I go to the next slide, this is the unideal, if that's such a word. So this one here, the candidate is also standing for mayor. Fine. They have not supplied an affiliation. They don't need to. Their principal place of residence is not in the area. That's fine. They don't need to. They have not supplied a photograph or a statement, and you can see the difference. That's what the electors will be seeing when they come to read about you and to vote, and they'll say, look, you can't even be bothered to provide a photograph or tell us a little bit about you. So just some advice there, provide your photograph and your statement if you can. Thank you. On to voter eligibility. So if you're on the general electoral roll, you can vote for 5 issues. You can vote for the mayor, you can vote for 1 to 3 general ward councillors, depending on which ward you're in, 4 community board members, 1 general constituency councillor for the region, and the Māori ward poll. So there's your 5 issues for if you're on the general roll. And if we go to the next slide, if you're on the Māori roll, you can also vote for 5 issues. So you're voting for the mayor, you're voting for 1 Māori ward councillor, 4 community board members, 1 Māori constituency councillor for the region, and the Māori ward poll. Next. Campaigning, that can occur anytime. You can be campaigning now. There's no problem there. Council has an election signs policy. Pretty much signs can go up any time before election day and must be removed within 10 days after election day. So that's before the 21st of October. So signs may only be erected on private property with the landowner's consent. And if you're doing any campaigning, any advertisements or any way of promoting yourself, there must have a authorization statement on it, authorized by Joe Blogs, and then you have a contact detail, and it could be an email address, a website address, a phone number, a PO box, anything like that to identify you. That is a legal requirement. So everything that you put out must have this statement on it, whether it's a sign, a notice, a pamphlet, a web page on vehicles or whatever it is must have this statement. However, if you do put it on a website, you only need to put it on your main page. You do not need to put it on every post or tweet or message. Next. Which that leads into social media. Really is a great way to campaign. It's instant, it's far-reaching, and above all, it's free. So it does not come into your candidate expenditure limits because there's no cost associated with it. You can promote yourself and your policies. You can encourage people to vote for you. All those sorts of things. It's entirely over to you as a candidate. Fake news, we do not accept that. So be very careful about that. Do not promote anything that's not correct. Council's media channels are off limits. So Council's Facebook and all media channels are monitored. And that's really to maintain the Council's neutrality, which is legally required to be neutral. And that is enforced. So if anything strays into that is of a political nature, it will be removed immediately. Cybersecurity, keep safe. It's been around for a while. It is really a problem out there. And it is getting worse, so you really do need to be mindful of the damage it can do. And election offences, be mindful of those. They're in the candidate handbook. Have a read of them, know what you can and can't do. Be sure other candidates will know what you can and can't do. And if you're doing something wrong, I soon know about it and I'll have to be in touch with you. So just know your offences. They're all set out in the candidate handbook for your reference. Next. Donations, so you can receive as much money as you like. There's no limit to what you can receive from friends or family or donors or anything like that. So that's fine. However, if you do receive anything anonymously, that's where you truly do not know who the person who's given you that money is. Over $1,500, then you can only keep $1,500. The balance offsets the cost of the election. So there's no limit to the donations, but there is a limit to how much you can spend. Next. So this is set on the position you're standing for, which relates to the population of the area that you're standing for. So you can see there, if you're standing for mayor, population of 32,000, you can spend up to $20,000. And if you come down to the Tairua Pauanui Community Board down the bottom there, only a population of 3,000, you can only spend $3,500. So there's a graduated scale from 3.5 to 14 to 20,000, depending on the position you're standing for. Next. So reminder that those expenditure limits that I've just mentioned include GST. So if you're sailing close to the wind, make sure you include the GST and don't go over the limit. You can't add limits together if you're campaigning for multiple seats. So if you're standing for the mayor and a ward, and say the ward is 7,000 and the mayor is 20,000, you do not have 27,000 to spend. You take the higher of the two, so you can only spend up to $20,000. The electoral expenses and donations return, that's attached to the nomination. It is a requirement that this be completed and returned by the 11th of December. Even if you don't spend anything, just put nil in your in the amount column and submit it to us. We do require one from every candidate, and we do follow that up if it's not forthcoming. So note there that those forms are available for public inspection for 7 years. So they're on the council website, so anyone in the world can look at those, and the media in particular like viewing them. So just make sure that your return is accurate because it is a statutory declaration. Next. On to voting, nearly there. So voting is the 9th of September to 11th of October. As I mentioned, it is a longer period, 4.5 weeks. Voting packs will be delivered to electors between the 9th and the 22nd of September. The longer voting period has really been to enable the postal service to longer time to get the mail out and deliver it. It's gone from, I think, 6 days to 14 days to allow that to happen. So you're able to campaign up to and including election day. So people say, oh, I've stopped campaigning on the Friday night. And I said, no, you can carry on until on the Saturday morning if you wish to. So special votes, they were available to people who have not received an ordinary vote. They may have changed addresses, they may be on the unpublished roll, they simply may have just not got it, or dogs eaten it, or anything like that. They can apply for a special vote, no problem there, and check out the locations on the council's website or in the handbook of where they can be obtained. Just a word of warning for candidates, please do not collect votes from electors. Do not think that you're doing a great community service and going around the rest homes and that sort of thing, offering a service to collect votes. That is an offence, so do not do that, please. Voters should post their own votes back, or they can hand deliver them. So they can hand deliver, I think it's a Tuesday, the 7th of October is the last recommended date to put it in the post. After that, we recommend dropping them off at a council location. Voting, that will close at 12 noon on Saturday, the 11th of October. Again, at 12 o'clock, voting will close. There are no ifs, buts and maybes. At 12 o'clock, if you come in at 2 minutes past 12, we cannot accept the vote. It is deemed late. So just a reminder there. Next, please. So we do a daily return schedule over the voting period. It will look like this, and it's basically by community boards, and it goes on the council website. So it gives you an idea of how many votes per community board area are coming in per day. And as you can see there, in 2022, we had a total turnout of 51.5%, which is quite good when the national average is about 42%. Next. On to the results. Election closes at midday on Saturday the 11th. We will have progress results mid-afternoon. So that will be about 90% of the votes cast. So that will be all votes, including those received in the mail on Saturday morning, but will exclude hand-delivered votes on the Saturday and all special votes. So that will be progress results mid-afternoon on election day. And then the following day, we'll have preliminary results. On the Sunday, that will include all votes counted except for special votes. And with special votes, the declarations have to go off to the Electoral Commission to check that a person has actually enrolled or changed address or whatever made it eligible. And then we will receive advice from the Electoral Commission and open and count those special votes that are approved and fold them into the final results on the Friday, the 17th of October. All results will be put on the council website and the candidates contacted, media advised, etc. So the elected members take office the day after the public notice, so that will occur on the 18th of October, and an elected member can't act until they've been sworn in at the first council meeting, which will be held at the end of October. Next. Resources, I've mentioned the candidate handbook, the legislation, good source there. There's the URL to find that. Pre-election report, that'll be talked about shortly, but that's a really good resource as well to read. Tender council meeting, I think there's still a couple until the election. Read agendas and minutes, they're all available online, and you can simply talk to a council member if you want to ask further questions. I think that's all from me. There's my contact details there. Dale Osowski from based in Auckland, and my deputy electoral officer is Donna, who did our introduction, and she's from the council, and there's her contact details there. Kia ora.
Thank you, Dale, for that presentation. Very informative. We'll now move on to our next presenter, which is our Chief Executive, Aileen Laurie.
Kia ora koutou. How's the sound? Okay. Thank you. So I've just got a few slides just to talk a little bit about the district, to talk a little bit about the organisation, and to talk a little bit about what you might expect if you're elected. So first slide, please. So here we are. This is the district. We have a particularly interesting district. we're very accessible, and depending on the traffic in the respective locations, we are only an hour and a half from Auckland, Tauranga and Hamilton, which means we have influxes of visitors. We have 400 kilometres of coast, quite mountainous district, 72,000 plus hectares of conservation estate. That's quite a significant landmass that's actually in conservation estate in our district. So if you're looking for a variety of issues, this is definitely the district to be looking at. Thank you. So the ward structure, Dale has talked you through that. We have our 4 wards. We have our 5 community boards, all sitting across that particularly complex terrain that I mentioned earlier. Thank you. A few statistics here. You heard Dale talk about our 30,000 odd population. That's a Wednesday night when everyone's at home, and that's our resident population. In the weekends, our population swells with our non-resident ratepayers, and you know, we can be looking at 70,000 on a busy long weekend. And then over the Christmas period, we can be looking at peaks of around 100,000 people. That makes it a fairly interesting place to try and manage service delivery and infrastructure capacity and so on. We're also a relatively old community. I think we're the average oldest community in the country, which again poses challenges with fixed incomes and also with specific needs for things like mobility and so on. Thank you. We're a pretty big organisation, so our asset base is valued at around $2 billion, and we operate under something like 150 different acts of parliament. So we're very complex, and we have quite high transparency requirements through audit processes and so on. So if you think about the top 40 listed businesses on the stock exchange, we're actually right up there in terms of scale and probably more complex than many of those. Thank you. And yeah, just some statistics about the number of things that we look after, and just referencing that visitor population. That's why we have so many assets in terms of supporting those visitors and attracting people into our district. Thank you. So how council works. So the organisation, which is non-political, that's the green box at the bottom there. So that's run by a leadership team and staff of around 260. We service 5 community boards, and we service the council and the committees that the council operates. The community boards tend to deal with the more local issues and community aspirations at place, and the council tends to deal with the bigger, more strategic issues and those large infrastructure needs. Cool. So what's involved as an elected member? Certainly there is a lot of reading. So we have council meets every 6 weeks, and we have fairly significant agendas for those council meetings. You can expect to be spending a number of hours in the days leading up to a council meeting, reading the agenda, understanding the issues, and you know, forming your views before you come to the council table. But I work behind the scenes with other elected members to see where votes are landing. Voting on decisions, obviously. We also run a number of informal briefings, workshops, community events and ceremonies, my favourite being the citizenship ceremonies. They're just lovely events. As I said, the council meeting is 6 weekly, but the community boards meet also more frequently than that, and they also have informal meetings. We have committees also that come in on top of that. Next, please. One of the things I say is that the best qualification for being a councillor is to bring an open mind into the process, not an empty mind. Councillors all have experience and have been shaped by their lives and careers, but coming in around the council table, legislation requires that an open mind and consideration of all the facts when it comes to decision making. In terms of induction, council staff will lead you through an induction process. We've got some great support people that will help you through that process. There is an awful lot to learn, and we'll try and get the timing and staging of that appropriate. We'll introduce you to the major pieces of legislation. We are heading towards a paperless environment, so we will be rolling out technology. The agenda management systems are all online, and we will be doing training around that. We have council email addresses for elected members, and it's important that those are used. We are subject to transparency rules under various acts of parliament, so when people make Official Information Act requests, then it's much easier if all that information sits within the council system, and it can be more easily accessed than if it sits in personal systems. We'll introduce the new elected members to all the key staff, work through the current work programs, in particular the long-term plan, which lays out the program that the organisation is working to, and we'll run some ward tours. Just one other thing I just wanted to mention here also, in the lead up to the election, it's really important that we maintain a level playing field for all candidates, and that includes those who aren't on council and those that are on council. So our governance team have set up a place on the website. So if we have questions that come in from any of the candidates, including the current councillors, if there's a significant response that we think all candidates should have access to, we'll be posting it there so that everyone can see the same information. Thank you. Yes, okay, so these are the salaries. Dale mentioned the positions earlier. These are the salaries that will kick in after the elections. So the mayoral salary is 158,000. Councillors are a 45,000 minimum, and that is reshaped depending on how the committee structure lands post-election. Community boards, our boards are well paid relative to other community boards in the country, and that reflects the fact that they have significantly more delegations than many other community boards around New Zealand. A community board chairperson's there depending on which community board it is, ranging from $18,000 to $23,000. There are a range of allowances, but the new ones that I thought might be of interest is that there are some allowances for home security systems. Unfortunately, elected members are seeing more risk around the role that they are carrying out, and so there's been provision made in this round of remuneration decisions to provide for that. I should also mention that remuneration is not set by council or the organisation. It's set by an independent body called the Remuneration Authority, and they look at the role and look at the size and the responsibilities and set the salaries accordingly. By law, we must pay our elected members. There's a number of cases where you'll hear elected members saying, I'm going to forego my salary, or what, those sorts of things. But by law, we must pay the elected member. What happens after that is obviously their business, but as an organisation, we must make those payments. Just to note there's also allowances for childcare, ICT, mileage and travel time. Thank you. And now for the fabulous Sue Wells, who has a wonderful video that tells you it is like it really is. Thank you.
My name is Sue Wells. I served 18 years as a local government elected member, and I started so long ago that if people wanted to yell at you, they had to put a 40-cent stamp on an envelope to do it. I started out as a community board member, and then I served a further 5 terms as a Christchurch City Councillor. I primarily specialised in regulatory and planning issues, and I was the chair of the planning committee during the earthquakes, so you can imagine I've seen a fair bit. These days, among other things, I work as a mentor, coach, facilitator, trainer, helping local government elected members and the staff who report to them know their roles so that they can do their jobs better. When I got started, I knew absolutely nothing about the role, and training was very different then. Even with good training, it is going to take you time to get the hang of it. And that doesn't matter if you've been on other boards, be they commercial or the kindy committee. This role is just different. And that's because of the way it's set out in the Local Government Act. That's the issue with local government in New Zealand as a whole. You see, this is not just a governance role you're getting into, but it's absolutely not an executive role. That means that you're not in charge of the staff or the business that council does, and you don't get to tell anybody what stuff will do or how to do it. So if you think, as you often do at the start, that you're going to be helping by suggesting another way of doing things, you're probably in the wrong lane. That's really uncomfortable because most of your community believes that's what the role of a councillor or a community board member is. And it actually isn't, because local government in New Zealand is not set up like that. It's not set up like the UK or the USA. Our form of local government is much more hands-off the doing, make policy, monitor, ensure accountability. To add even further complexity, you inherit all of the previous decisions ever made. And in order to undo those decisions, like anything else, you need a majority. You also have to obey the law, and that means you have to do what the government tells you to do, even the laws you don't particularly like. Unlike the staff, however, you are allowed to actually say that you don't like them. You see, your staff can't speak in the way that you can. And this is one of the reasons you have to be so incredibly careful with that relationship, because it is not equivalent in power. And that means you have to be very careful around ensuring that you're not bullying. Your role is a mix of governance, which is basically figuring out the very broad direction and somewhat more specific budget for things, and then making sure that it's spent in the way that you said it should be, but also advocacy for the community. And unlike a corporate board, your community has your contact details and is not afraid to use them. Also, unlike a corporate board, councils have a very large range of things in which they're interested. Everything from playgrounds to prostitution, climate change to tourism, you name it, the issue possibly will come up. And that means that you will get reports on all of those things. And in order to be successful, you need to have sufficient time available in which you can read those reports and attend meetings and go to briefings. But most importantly, think about things, thinking before you speak. Do you know, that's what I enjoyed the most. I felt like I got the most incredible education, and it didn't cost me a cent. If there were NCEA credits for being an elected member, I would be a high school. And also, this job fits around you and your life. It's just amazing. It doesn't matter whether you are, as I was, a single parent, whether you are a retired high-flying international executive professional. You come in equal, and it's up to you to find your skills, find your strengths, and learn and do it in your own way. Look, the role can also be difficult. It can be emotionally taxing. It can be lonely, and you might see or participate in behaviours that you find really unpleasant. And I did find that very, very hard. Had I known then what I know now, I would have had a much easier time of things, not just during the role, but also after I left it. I think one of the most important skills that you can bring is the ability to listen to other people, particularly the ones that you don't agree with and the ones you don't necessarily like very much. You have to be able to listen with tolerance and think about other points of view. You also have to be able to build relationships with other people right across the political spectrum, because you only have one vote. So if you want to achieve anything, to get anything done, you need half plus one. And that number is not going to be made up of the same people on every single vote. Here's a little piece of campaign advice for you. When you're starting out, it's tempting to say, vote for me and I'll get this done. I'll tell you now, you actually won't. On your own, you will achieve 100% of absolutely zero. And it's possible that there are reasons why this thing that you want so badly might not have already been done. My advice to you is not to aspire to that thing, whatever it is, but it's to moderate your language during the campaign period. Instead of saying, I will get this done, use language like, I stand for, or I will work tirelessly to try to. Moderate your language. Finally, you don't need a university degree to be successful in this role. What you need is an open mind, sufficient time, and the ability to learn. Those things are quite different to formal education. It doesn't matter if you didn't finish high school. It doesn't matter if you don't read all that well. There are ways around those things. And elected members should represent the broadest picture of the community from which they're drawn. I encourage you to take the plunge, to think about this, talk it over with your family or friends, because if you want to do this, don't let that ever hold you back. This is about heart, not about the ability to have succeeded in formal education. And final, your staff are here to help you. They're professionals, they have jobs to do, they're doing them and they want you to succeed. Honestly, staff don't care which way elected members vote. What they care about is if they turn up prepared, if they've done their homework, if they're consistent, if they're straight up, and if they stick to what they've said. As long as staff have a clear direction, they'll follow it. If you flip-flop or get out of the governance role, it drives them crazy. And the staff observe you. It's a good idea to treat staff with respect for any number of reasons, but most of all, if you want to come back in another 3 years and listen to another version of this, they're the ones that actually have a lot to do with it. So good luck. Enjoy the next few months as you go through this process. Not everybody who campaigns is going to win, and that can really sting. But I tell you what, once you come out the other side, win or lose, you'll have had a very, very interesting experience. Learn a bit about yourself and about local government along the way. And in 3 years' time, I hope I'm here to join you again for another episode of What to Expect when you're elected.
Well, that concludes our presentation for the evening. If you would like to ask a question, feel free to send an email to elections@tcdc.govt.nz or give us a call and we'll be happy to help. With that being said, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you to Dale, Aileen and Jenna for joining us tonight. We will do a closing karakia and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Tūtaua mai I runga o te whakaeatanga e, tēnei te kaupapa ka ea, tēnei te wānanga ka ea, te mauri o te kaupapa ka whakamoia, te mauri o te wānanga ka whakamoia, hoa ki runga, hoa ki raro, haumi e, hui e, tae ki. We hope you have a wonderful evening. Ka kite.